Did y'all hear about those electricians in Maine who have screwed themselves over by voting for Donald Trump?
I had heard people say if you vote for this, you're going to get what you voted for. But that's what people say every election.
A catastrophic wave of layoffs is hitting electricians in Maine. It may be a preview of hundreds of thousands of jobs that could be lost nationwide after President Trump and Republicans just repealed billions in clean energy investments.
It was like a light switch got opened, and all of our work just disappeared overnight.
We went to Maine, where a solar boom has already come to an abrupt halt.
I got laid off at the beginning of May. I haven't gotten any calls yet.
I'm on unemployment right now, and in the state of Maine, that's $595 per week.
Years and years. Guys were traveling to other jurisdictions to go work on solar projects.
That started to change in 2022.
President Biden's signing of the Inflation Reduction Act today comes after more than a year of negotiations among Democrats in Congress.
The Inflation Reduction Act was the largest federal investment in clean energy jobs in American history. It provided tax credits that encouraged business to build renewable projects like solar, wind, and battery storage. And as those projects multiplied, the landscape for skilled trades workers transformed.
The rate for a union electrician is currently about $39 an hour. 2020, we were at about $29-30 an hour. So we have seen an enormous increase in the wages for the people doing the work. And that's because when you have work to do, you get bargaining power.
They were so desperate for people, they'd raise the amount of money they'd pay you per hour to get you there, and it was competitive. Companies were competing on how much they would pay their guys to get the amount of guys that they needed to finish these solar fields. Solar, it fed my family. Solar lined my pockets. It gave me work for years.
Take me through your thinking. What was your thinking when you decided to vote for Trump?
When I voted for Trump, my big thing was I agreed with his stance on immigration. I agreed with his idea of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I liked his stance on no new wars.
Has that worked out?
And now we're seeing the exact opposite happen. The immigration thing and Palestine were two of the biggest things that turned people off to the Biden administration and to the potential Harris administration. At least in who I've spoken to on job sites.
What was your reaction when Trump was elected?
I was not surprised.
But were you happy? I mean, you voted for Trump.
I was pretty happy. Happy's not the right word. I was indifferent. I was more, great. The better of two evils. Let's hope nothing goes bad. And then now it's going bad.
Okay, I want to point out a couple of things there. It's this lack of awareness from skilled union workers in this country, how much the Biden administration did to secure work for them, how much Biden-era programs profited the economy and especially meant good paying jobs, increasing wages for workers all around the country. Infrastructure projects, Inflation Reduction Act projects, green energy projects. It also meant increased grants, energy grants, efficiency grants, climate mitigation grants for farmers as well. So many ways that the Biden administration helped people be profitable, have a higher quality of life and better pay. And just no awareness for that fact, no awareness or acknowledgement of that fact at all until it was all yanked away from them. This is not a video with fuck around and find out content. This makes me really sad. This makes me deeply frustrated because we see a lot of young men like this. I think it's wrong of us to assume that most people who voted for Donald Trump are diehard MAGA. We know that there are a lot of people who didn't vote before. We know that there are a lot of people who are swing independent voters. We know that Trump actually peeled off white men who had previously voted for Joe Biden. Those folks are not diehard in the cult of MAGA. They just, I think, were like this guy. They saw both candidates as equally not great. They believed a lot of misinformation about Kamala Harris. They had their hefty dose of racism and misogyny. They didn't want a black woman as president. And they believed the lies of Donald Trump. They believed that he was actually going to help them, that he cared about working class people, which again, I will never understand that. But now we're seeing they're acknowledging I fucked myself. I fucked my whole community. I fucked my whole career. This is bad. I realize now that Trump is a lying liar and that the way he said he was going to make America great again, he's actively wrecking it. My life is measurably worse. My community's life is measurably worse. My community is measurably worse off because of Donald Trump. Will these people vote for Democrats in the midterms? Will these people do something to stand up against Trump now? How do we get these people who are regretful? Can we get these people who are regretful, who realize that they contributed toward their own suffering and the suffering of other people, to join the resistance movement against Donald Trump and fascism rising in this country? Is that something that we can do? I do think it's interesting how this young man says that immigration is a big thing. He agreed with what Trump said about immigration. What we are seeing is that Trump's like be tough on immigration policy, wanting to close the borders, and like these lies that he preached about how he needed to protect us all from rapists and murderers, that there were all of these violent criminals coming across the border, and it was all these thugs and gang members. When you hear conservatives say they agree with what Trump has to say about immigration, that message is what they agreed with. They believed the lie that there were tons of violent criminals flooding into this country from Central and South America that were posing a threat to their wives and daughters, right? What you find out now, today, is that what they realize Trump's immigration agenda actually is something that they deeply, deeply oppose. Something like 79% of Americans do not want to see our migrant workers deported. They want a pathway for legal citizenship, or at the very least, legal resident status. They don't like what's happening with deportation. When they wanted Trump to get tough on immigration, they didn't mean take the waitress at my local diner that I see twice a week who's been here for 25 years. They didn't mean, that happened in Missouri, by the way. There's a whole Republican, like heavily Trumper community that saw in their small town a woman who's been a waitress there for a very long time got snatched by ICE, and they were all like, wait, that's not what we meant when we said get tough on immigration. We meant violent criminals. We didn't mean people we go to church with, people whose kids go to school with our kids. We didn't mean people who are valued members of our community. They are now finding out that that's what Trump's immigration policy was all along. His agenda all along was an ethnic cleansing. His agenda all along was to take people who have committed no crimes, people who are peacefully living their lives and contributing to the economy, paying their taxes, people who do really valuable, important work in this country. And the Trump regime is snatching them up and taking billions of our tax dollars to keep them inside concentration camps. When this young man and so many other folks voted for Trump's immigration agenda, they did not vote for what is happening now, and they are not happy about it. The latest polling shows how deeply, deeply unhappy they are. So this is a poll that came out from Gallup just a couple of days ago. We are now seeing a huge swing. Look at that red line. That's Republicans. Between when Trump got elected and now, we now have a majority of Americans, no matter what party you belong to, who think that immigration is a good thing. It's good for this country. That's a 25-point swing amongst Republicans. Here's another way to visualize this element of the polling. Americans' views on immigration's effect on the U.S. On the whole, do you think that immigration is a good thing or a bad thing for this country today? Regardless of party, almost 80% of Americans think that immigration is a good thing. Y'all, look at this split since Trump got elected. This is real bad for Trump's agenda. Y'all, this is devastatingly bad for Trump's agenda. Real bad. He's only 6 months in. He ran on immigration as the cornerstone of his platform on deporting immigrants. And now all of a sudden, you are seeing the lowest disapproval rating in more than 25 years. You are seeing this huge spike in approval of immigration and plummeting disapproval numbers. Y'all, this is real bad news for Trump. These immigration numbers are bad. Americans very strongly oppose what Trump is doing with our immigrants. And then you have the fact that people are losing their jobs. The passage of the big, nasty, bloated budget bill is costing people their health care. It's costing people their hospitals. It's costing people the safety net programs that they rely on. Now, I said this wasn't going to be a fuck around and find out video. If that young man's quality of life is so diminished because of who he voted for and what Trump is doing now, he knows what he needs to do. He needs to vote in the midterms. He needs to support Democratic candidates. He needs to vote for them. He needs to work to fight for democracy now. I mean, the midterms do look like they are the Democrats to lose, and we've got to make sure that they don't fumble the ball. It doesn't have to be like this forever, and the people who contributed to what we are experiencing now, who are deeply unhappy and are struggling, cool, fight to fix it. Fight to fix it, y'all. You helped get us in this mess. You absolutely can help get us out of it. Sucks to realize what you supported. Sucks to realize that you contributed toward your own oppression and suffering. Okay, help us dig out. Help us bring an end to this madness. We all have work to do, no matter how you voted in the last election. If you regret your vote, work to undo the damage.